Like Phoebe?
Yeah.
Yeah, g'day, Rob. Ian Anderson here.
Yeah.
Congratulations on what was obviously a pretty good tournament for the side. How did you rate the overall performance?
I think you're always pretty proud of making a World Cup final. And I thought we played, well when we needed to. And then obviously, pretty disappointed we didn't play our best cricket in the final. So, I suppose it's a classic bittersweet moment. One, to obviously play well to make the final, but then to just not be at our best on the last day of the tournament.
Right. Any regrets over that final in terms of sort of selections or approaches or tactics or anything like that, or did you just feel that you got outplayed by a very good side?
I mean, I don't think you can lose a game and not reflect on what you may have, done differently, but it's always hindsight. I think the most important thing is beforehand is making the decisions for the right reasons, having done all our prep and our, sort of delving into different things around our decision making. So yeah, I don't think you can sort of spend too much time dwelling on that, other than obviously learning and growing and getting better. And just reflecting on, what we might have done and where we can sort of edge ourselves forward as a team as we move forward.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there was some talk, obviously, with a very good batting wicket for the final and short boundaries and stuff like that. There's some talk that the game is sort of swaying too much to the batters now, with scores regularly sort of over 200. That obviously wasn't the case in somewhere like Colombo, where the pitches are slowing. What's your opinion on terms of how you see T20 internationals at the moment in terms of an even contest between bat and ball, or is it a format where people want to see sort of bat dominate?
Yeah, I guess it comes down to what you view as entertainment, really. It seems to be the trend, around the world that runs are the thing that, that people want to see. Of course, I believe you still want to have an even contest. I think what it is doing is obviously putting pressure on the bowling units and bowlers to develop different skill sets. The batting progression in terms of skills and execution is going through the roof and very quickly. So, it's up to the bowling side of things to actually, to increase the development and the trending of our skills. It is tough. The bats are very good. The guys obviously practice hitting the ball far. And when the pitches give not much to the bowlers, it does make it very tough. So, but ultimately, if that's the way the game's going, then it's the onus is obviously on the bowlers to develop their skills and develop them quickly. Otherwise, it's not going to be too long before we see, scores in excess of 250 regularly, like we saw in the latter stages of the tournament.
Mm. Your two openers obviously had outstanding tournaments, both of them. In some ways, ironically, does that put a little bit of pressure sort of on the middle order guys? Like, for example, come the final, guys like Daryl and Mark hadn't had a lot of batting time, had they, throughout the tournament?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I suppose it's, again, so we obviously enjoyed the way that they played. They set us up. They won games where the middle to low order, as you said, didn't have much to do. And then obviously you want that because you want to play well, and you want to win games well. But that said, all you can do is fall back on your prep, and we prepped well. The guys invested heavily in their preparation and being ready. So you got to trust that come game time, if there is a requirement for those guys to step up, that they'll be able to do that. And the guys are seasoned campaigners now, so you trust that they're able to.
Obviously, it's a very high variance format for individuals. Russian had an outstanding tournament in terms of his spin, but didn't have as much success with the bat. Is there a reason yet why you think he hasn't nailed down this T20 international format?
Probably a little bit unfair. I mean, I do feel like, he made some valuable contributions along the way with the bat in a couple of our victories. And at the same breath, as you said, like with those openers get off to a start, you come in and your sort of goal is to maintain the momentum there. I mean, it's a high risk game, so you understand that there's going to be sort of a lot of failure mixed in with some success along the way. For me, as I said before, at the start of the tournament, sort of people underestimate the all-round value of Rachin in the team. And so, the conditions fed into his bowling and him being a real role player from a bowling point of view. And then, from the batting side of things, it's, he was either delivering with a bat or not sort of using up too many deliveries at that number 3 position. So, at the end of the day, he'll become more and more consistent in a game that is sort of fraught with inconsistency, but no doubt that his game is improving all the time, and that'll continue to happen.
Right, last one from me. Often the Black Caps are referred to as sort of a very experienced side. The T20 side is a little bit younger than, say, the Test 11. Do you expect most or all of the squad to be about up to and including sort of the next T20 World Cup?
I think there's a real hunger in the group, having sort of tasted the success here and fallen short. I think there's a real hunger of the group, to work their way towards the World Cup in 2028, especially seeing as it's a home World Cup. So, I'd expect a large number, if not all of that group, to be pushing hard to be part of that World Cup and, trying to go that one step further.
Okay, thanks, Rob.
Sure.
Rob, it's Tom Bartlett here. Rob, I was just wondering if you could just give us a bit of a steer on the squad at the moment. Obviously, you had a few guys kind of coming and going from India, and obviously, despite that, you still managed to get to the final. How is everyone? Is everyone in pretty good shape, or have you got through? As you look to the next sort of, you got another 5 games. You got guys going to IPL. How's the group looking?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, we've come through, as you said, we're managing various things along the way, from sort of minor niggles to more significant ones. But everyone seems to be in good shape. Look, primarily we want to find a nice balance now between giving guys off. It was a pretty intense 9 weeks, to be fair, in India and Sri Lanka, and obviously stepping straight into a 5-match series in a couple of days' time. So sort of managing the guys who are going to PSL, going to IPL, with guys who didn't have much game time in the actual World Cup itself, and working hard to get that balance right. But for the most part, like, everyone's fit and healthy, which is great. No new injuries or any concerns through the World Cup, so that's a positive.
How hard is that balance to do? Obviously, you've got a series that you want to do well at home. Obviously, coming off the back of being in the final in India, and the fans in New Zealand wanting to see the players, but obviously you've got a job to do. You've got to manage that. How difficult is that one going to be, considering it is only a 5-game series, and obviously then these franchises, and then a Test series in England later in the year?
Yeah, I mean, there's always a balancing act. That's the nature of the beast right now, and in international cricket, and understanding. We also have to take care of our players. Those guys left everything out there from a World Cup point of view. So, from that side of things is just, sorry, just a bit of a distraction in the background here. But we no, we obviously we're doing our best, and from my side, it's just the constant communication with the players, just to see where they're at. You still need to be in a mental space to put your best foot forward for your country when you're competing, and trying to ensure that that's the case. But we'll have a fairly decent showing of our World Cup squad in that series, which is great. And there's a lot of keenness from the players' point of view to actually play. So, which is awesome, given that it's been a pretty hectic little while that leads into the series.
And just finally for me, Rob, obviously the South African team, just looking to that series, although I'm not sure if they're here in New Zealand yet. They may have got there before you do, but they're obviously they're in a similar situation to you, in that they've got to rest their World Cup squad. You probably, I don't know whether you know much about that squad, or you've even had a chance to look at it, but what have you made of that, and the challenge that they might present to your group coming off the back of the World Cup?
Yeah, I think there's none of their IPL players are in that squad. Only 3 that were at the World Cup. So obviously I know those players pretty well. The depth in South Africa has always been strong. Obviously, the SA20 competition has developed a lot of younger players in South Africa, T20 players in South Africa. So from that point of view, they have a pretty good team. Most of them have played international cricket, or have done very well domestically. So it'll be a good challenge. And yeah, a nice one for the team, and obviously we'll have some players that weren't at the World Cup also part of that. So we continue to broaden our base and build our sort of our depth across all formats, which is exciting.
Thanks, mate.
Hey, Rob. I suppose just looking at the team's travel plans coming home in those small groups, I suppose, has it gone as smoothly as it could so far?
Yeah, I mean, you sort of there's obviously bigger things, at play right now in the world, and so to have a split travel schedule to return is totally understandable. It has guys getting in different times, and we're obviously flexible in terms of those guys, and especially the ones that'll be part of the the SA series. But yeah, sort of you just deal with whatever cards you dealt, and just looking forward to getting back home, really.
Are there any sort of contingencies in place? I'm not sure from now how long the team has to or hasn't until their flights, but are there sort of any contingencies in play that if flights do change or if things do change, that your travel route might have to change?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm not directly responsible for that, but there's everyone working very hard in the background to make sure that things run off smoothly. And for the most part, we've already had two groups that have left. I'm part of the second last group that's leaving, so everything is kind of going according to plan at this point in view. But yeah, we'd have all bases covered if things had to change.
And then coming into New Zealand for this 5-match T20 series, obviously you've just come off the high of a World Cup final, and then coming here to, I guess you could say, sort of playing a B South Africa side with them resting all their players. How do you get the team back up to level after playing such an important match?
I suppose there's two things. One is, just obviously, representing the firm. I think other guys are exceptionally proud of doing that. And I know that they'll, certainly want to continue on the form from the World Cup. And then obviously, secondly, is it's so important to bring in new, fresh faces, from a World Cup squad I'm talking about into that series, and they bring their own energy and their own excitement around actually playing. So you're sort of doing a little bit of both. But I know the guys will be up to play and compete, no doubt.
And just lastly, I suppose, can you sum up your almost 3 months that you spent in India, I suppose? Yeah, how would you sort of summarize your experience over there?
Yeah, look, I mean, it feels like it's a long time ago now that we won our first ODI series in India ever, And so the world of, I suppose, international cricket means you move on pretty quickly, but we've tried to make a point of sort of, being where our feet are and savoring each victory along the way. And so it's one of those things that it feels like we've been here a long time, but it's also gone incredibly quickly. So, but in short, super proud of the whole group that includes the staff. I mean, obviously it's 9 weeks away from home now. But if I look at the way we finished the tour, albeit the final wasn't our best, our levels in the semi-final were exceptional. And then if I go back to the ODI series, was brilliant there as well, So, yeah, extremely proud, I suppose, very grateful for the opportunity, to travel a part of this journey with the team, and the staff. Looking forward to to the things that we've learned along the way, and just really building on this foundation, because for me as head coach it still feels like it's early days and still learning about how we sort of cope and respond to pressure, and the areas of growth that lie in front of us if we want to keep growing as a team. So yeah, looking forward to the next chapter and the next step for the team.
Sweet. Thanks, Rob.
Sorry, guys, we've got about 5 minutes till we've got to board for our flight, and I do apologize for the distractions going on around here. But yeah, I'll just if we could just fire through the next few, that would be great.
Just one from me then, Rob. First off, congratulations and commiserations. Just talking a little bit on that, obviously for you, this is the first time you've been in a white ball final with this team, but for some of the guys in the squad, this has been their third, their fourth time getting to that final step and ending up as the bridesmaid. So has there been any talk about bringing in maybe some mental skills training or how you approach the nerves and the pressure of these white ball finals?
I mean, to be fair, the guys are, busy with mental skills all the time. Obviously, we have our providers at each MA, so every player has access to a mental skills practitioner for as little or as much as they want to be. From a team point of view, I was very, very impressed with the way that the guys handled just the everything that comes with being in a final. There's certain parts of our performance, that obviously we would have wanted to do better. But in T20 cricket, you get put under pressure by a good team early, like we did to South Africa. It's quite hard to get yourself back into the game, and you're trying to claw away at doing that. But certainly there's nothing there that that concerns me. If I look at the language of the team, if I look at the behaviors of the team in the lead up to the World Cup, obviously, I've been to a number of semi-finals now and one final prior to this. So for me, the team were very level-headed and very focused and switched on. So of course we can always be better, but I don't think I think the guys are involved from a mental skills point of view more so than other teams that I've been involved in, and really invest heavily in that side of their game. So for me, that's not a concerning part at all.
Great. Safe travels.
Thank you very much.
Is everyone happy, or anyone else got any questions? No, all good. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate you jumping
Thanks, guys.
on it. And yeah, apologies for all the. It was a quiet spot we chose, and now it's got quite loud. Thank you. See you later.
Take care, everyone.